So Garrett, there have been a lot of good LSU football players, great LSU football players, and yet you're the first one to appear on the cover of this game that so many of us have played, EA Sports College Football. What does that mean to you, and what was the experience like of participating in that photo shoot at the Rose Bowl?
I mean, it's a blessing. This is a game that I've played since I was a young kid, and having a father who's a college football coach, I was playing with so many different teams throughout the years. And, that was, mainly the only game that I was playing, and I looked up to his players and being able to hop on the sticks and play with his players was cool. And for it to be able to come full circle and, now be able to use myself in the game and, to be on the cover, it's unbelievable. I'm so blessed and I'm so thankful. And as you said, obviously it means a lot to be able to represent LSU as well, and to put our brand out there.
Okay, so were you always playing as whoever your dad was coaching at the time, or
Yeah,
and now do you
always.
only play as LSU and yourself, or do you mix things around?
I'm either playing as LSU or last year I was using Texas a little bit as well. And then obviously, sometimes the boys will do a little random, the three randoms and a suicide. So pick one from that and let it roll. So most of the time, if I'm choosing LSU or Texas. So
But as a kid, it was always your dad's teams.
always, always. I mean, I remember using the University of Washington, Michigan, Alabama, just even Fresno State and smaller schools, Michigan State. I mean, it was always wherever he was at. And I used to love the mascot mode the most too. Being able to use all the mascots and stuff, that was a lot of fun. So my mascot still go to this day is Michigan State's Sparty. So
That's a good choice. Now, this game comes out in July. You were recently recording, a Canes commercial down in Thibodaux. You're as we're talking, the House settlement comes out tomorrow. This NIL Go clearinghouse is launched. It's an interesting time for probably someone like yourself to be a high level, marketable college athlete. How do you manage that as part of your life here and,
yeah.
being in that position in 2025?
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing is keeping the main thing the main thing. At the end of the day, my responsibility is to be the starting quarterback for the LSU Tigers, and so it's been a challenge learning how to manage my time and make sure I'm doing the right things at the right times. And I've had to learn how to be very good, with my scheduling and how to time things out, leave opportunities and times to do certain things in the NIL space. And so, I'd say for one, it's definitely been a good practice, hopefully for the NFL in the future. So,
Let's get a little bit to the season ahead. You've said how you need to use your legs more this season, but I doubt that means being an 1,000 yard rusher, right? So, like, what does running more look like for you,
yeah.
Garrett Nussmeier, in your game?
Yeah, no, definitely not trying to be 1,000 yard rusher. I mean, if it happens, it happens, but I don't know how likely that is. But no, it's just being able to stress the defense in different ways, and when they're taking things away in the pass game, because I didn't do a good enough job of taking off last year. They were able to cover things in a way that would have left the feet open. So just being able to, as I said, stretch the defense in different ways, take it when it's there, and make them respect my legs in a way to allow us to be able to stretch the ball in different ways.
How are you changing your body? This is something you mentioned you're working on to get ready for that.
Yeah, just being very intentional in the way that I'm training. Training my lower body harder than ever, and focusing on being as twitchy as possible. Being as quick as possible, and things of that sort.
Coach Flynn, I'm sure has a program for all this stuff. You mentioned that word twitchy.
Yeah.
How do you work on that element?
Yeah, just different things. Whether it's as I said, just being more intentional. During sprint work and trying my best to be explosive. To maybe just take one step to make a cut instead of two, and things like that. Just working on that. And as you mentioned, Coach Flint does an unbelievable job with that. And so he's got the blueprint. So it's just trusting in that and being very intentional in the way that I'm working.
So it's right that you sort of drop some weight and then building it back up. I mean, have you done that really in an off season before in your LSU career?
Yeah, not really, to be honest. When I came to school, I was about a buck 60 or something like that, and so it was always just put weight on, put weight on, put weight on, and so it was always just eat, and stuff and peanut butter and jellies and things like that in between meetings or before bed. So it was definitely different for me to learn how to kind of eat the correct way and make sure I'm eating at the right times and things like that. So that's also kind of been a big part of this off season, just from the diet aspect.
You said at the MPA last week that your film, having a year of that now under your belt, gave you substance to identify and correct things. What have you learned from watching that is here throughout the off season that you've then been able to identify maybe certain things that you wanted to continue
Yeah.
to work on?
Yeah. Well, I'm not the type to go into details. I like to keep that to my own notes and to my own quarterback room, I guess you could say. But there's definitely a lot of things that I feel like I've improved on a ton this offseason. And just as you said, having that substance to be able to go back and watch it and look through it, and be able to truly be honest with myself in the areas that I needed to improve. And it's been huge for me going into this offseason.
How much of a difference has that been this offseason compared to last year, having the amount of volume in
Yeah.
your film that you can review?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I didn't really have that last off season, so I was trying to, watch different things and, I guess you could say, become better at being the leader of the offense, I guess more, and knowing the ins and outs. And so, having a full season starting, running the plays, being the guy in the game, I feel like the offense I know like the back of my hand now. So that has allowed me to, go into different areas. And I think that also speaks to, my decision to stay here and learn through this offense for 4 years. It allows you going into your last couple of years to branch off, I guess you could say, instead of having to focus on my responsibility as the quarterback for a play. I can look at how can I be better at making that decision, or how can I be better at getting us into the right play, and things like that.
You mentioned coming back. I mean, if you were to review it for a moment, what was sort of the main motivations for wanting to return to LSU instead of, having a chance to maybe be a fairly high draft pick in the NFL this past year?
Yeah, well, there was obviously a lot of prayer and a lot of thoughts with that. As I speak about all the time, my faith plays a huge role in my decision making and things like that. And so, I feel like coming back, I just feel like I had unfinished business. I feel like the product that I put on tape wasn't, what I wanted to be, and it's not what I wanted to leave. And I fully believe in Coach Kelly and what he wants to accomplish this year. And I didn't want to watch anybody else try to make that happen. I wanted to be the guy to spearhead that and lead that. And so I think it wasn't that hard of a decision for me.
They brought back, or excuse me, they added quite a bit to your offense around you, with Barry and Brown, Nick Anderson, also working on sort of a new offensive line. There's a lot of things happening with the offense, this offseason. What do you expect from this group? It might be hard to know here in the middle of the summer, but based on what you've seen in the spring, the past few months, what are you thinking about in terms of what this offense can accomplish?
Yeah. Well, speaking into the portal, obviously, I think our biggest thing so far has been just trying to build relationships, trying to get the team close, spending as much time around each other as possible, getting to know each other very well. And so, I think we've done a really good job of that. As far as what to expect from the offense, I think you're going to see a very versatile, very explosive offense.
So what I was asking was, you called this the closest team you've been at LSU, and y'all are also sort of trying to build that closeness when you have guys like Nick Anderson specifically, someone who didn't get to really do much this spring because he was limited. Like with a guy like that in particular, like how have you as the leader of this offense gone about trying to foster those sorts of relationships going into the year?
Just as I said, just spending time around each other just as much as possible, whether it's just eating together in the cafeteria, or if it's getting treatment and just hanging out, or whatever it is. Spend time around each other outside the building as well. Just it's all about that. As I've said before, being a leader, as a quarterback, you have to have relationships with the guys in order to be able to tell them what to do, or to be able to try and correct something or coach them on something. They're not going to listen to somebody who they have no idea who they are. And so that's kind of just been the most important part.
I think I saw a video of you maybe working out with Nick somewhere at some point. Like, have you been intentional about trying to get with him specifically because to kind of make up for maybe some of that lost time in the spring?
Yeah, absolutely. He was out there in Dallas with me training, and just as I said earlier, just it's just all about spending time, and whether that's working out or eating a sandwich, it's just um, Nick, but also everybody else in the transfer portal that came in as well, even guys on the defensive side. It's as I said, it's the closest team I've ever been on, and we're still continuing to build that. It's all about chemistry, and so we acknowledge that, and we know that the best teams are the closest teams. So.
It all starts with this opening game at Clemson. Coach Kelly said, as I think you're aware, that y'all have circled this game in a way that he hasn't done before for an opener. How are you and the other players sort of thinking about the importance of this game differently than you maybe have in the past?
Yeah, I think for one at LSU, there's always an expectation, right? There's always an expectation to compete for a national championship, and so I think in the past we've kind of looked too forward to that and always talked about where we wanted to be at the end of the season instead of focusing on where we had to start it, and so I think Coach Kelly and Coach Flint and the rest of the staff done an unbelievable job stressing that it's a 1-0 mindset. And, there's 1-0 all over the weight room when we go into the weight room every morning. And so I think we see it, we believe it, and we fully trust it. Our goal is to work our tails off so that we can be 1-0, and then continue to go 1-0 from there each and every week.
So that's sort of the mindset. It's really more thinking about 1-0, focus on the thing that's right in front of you instead of specifically Clemson in that
Yeah.
game.
I mean, there is some emphasis on Clemson as well, and it being the opener. I mean, we're aware that we've lost the last 5 openers, and I think our awareness of that situation and our awareness of who we're playing kind of led into the 1-0 mindset, and so I think it's kind of a combination of both.
So the 1-0s on the screens all over the weight room, as I think I saw recently. How else are y'all trying to maybe tangibly
Yeah.
emphasize those things?
Yeah, I mean, just even throughout our work, I think Coach Flynn has done an unbelievable job. Whether it's conditioning and he'll play some music that is just kind of random during a team run, and then when we're in between sets, we get a little break. We call it halftime. He starts playing our music, and then we go back to the run, and he starts playing the random music again. And he's kind of like, look, when we go on the road or whatever, like things are going to be uncomfortable. He's like, you get to halftime, you get to go in, and it's our music. We're back comfortable again, and then we're right back to work. And so it's kind of that's just one example of the different things that we've kind of tried out this off season to build that kind of game mindset and make everything kind of translate together.
So that's different from what y'all have done in the past.
Yeah, we've never done anything like that before.
As we kind of wrap up here, just what else has been part of your off season? Here over the summer, obviously there's some golf involved, there's some Saints
Yeah,
training camp involved. What else have you been up to though, here in these off season months?
yeah. As you said, a lot of golf. Getting able to go over to the Saints practice is pretty cool. Getting home, spending time with my younger brother. Obviously, working camps and things like that has been really cool. And I think that the best part is, it's my last time going through a college off season. And as bad as it sucks at times, uh, I'm very thankful that I had this last opportunity. And so I've kind of been attacking that. I've been attacking with that mindset every single day. I mean, this is my last time to wake up at 6 a.m. And go to a heavy squat day with the boys and have to run 20 tempos after. And college is hard, and so embracing that. It's gone by so fast, and so I'm forever grateful to LSU, the state of Louisiana for having my back, and I just continue to go at it each and every day, knowing it's my last.
Thanks for the time, Garrett. Good luck this season. I'm sure we'll see you at media days.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.